This is an interesting observation, and I want to both acknowledge the sense that it makes, but also push back on it. First off, yes, in many ways, the thing that is differentiating long rest classes, specifically the ones that have spell slots, quadratic wizards kind of thing, from the short rest classes, linear fighters side, is the spell slots. The faster you can drain those spell slots, the weaker the quadratic classes will get, and you will immediately have that sensation of these two sides being equal throughout an adventuring day. However, like you say, targeting the spell slots directly can feel very gamey or cheaty, which is why it is not the only resource you are targeting. You need to target the other resources because what they end up doing is they end up impacting those spell slots indirectly. The actual primary resource in the game is HP, because if you have 0 HP, regardless of what your kit is, you can do nothing. You have no ability to impact narrative mechanically. Let me give you an example. If I use a trap that is going to hit the entire room and it at least bleeds some HP, then maybe I have an easy encounter. And through the course of that, they use a couple of spell slots, but I'm not really caring about that. I'm caring about the fact that like they lost HP, but not enough that they're like, oh, we really need a short rest, or we really need to use some consumables. Instead, they just keep trucking through those small little nicks and cuts until they hit a room with a medium or a hard encounter. And now what's happening is they are all starting out at like 3/4 to half HP. And this means every little HP that I can do in that encounter when I'm doing more HP is pressuring them down to 0 quickly. This creates an immediate incentive to spend bigger spell slots, to use bigger features, because, we're not as far away from 0 as we should be, and we need to solve this problem now before that happens. I cannot tell you how many times I've experienced both at my table or like listening to actual play, like podcasts and stuff. How many times has a group said, we didn't heal? And now they are in a situation where, had they been at full HP, they would not be feeling the stress that they are. But having started it below full HP, they are in a world of hurt and they are having to spend more resources than they otherwise would have. And even then, had they healed, they are still spending resources, hit dice, healing potions, healing spells. HP does translate to spell slots at some point because someone's got to restore that stuff. So while you might say correctly that at the end of the day, spell slots are what make the biggest difference in terms of a resource to be drained to make the quadratic classes match up with the linear classes, the long rest with the short rest, I would argue that there are lots of ways to get at spell slots and that the real primary resource in all of D&D is HP, because HP is the only thing that makes you be able to do nothing. You can still cast cantrips, you can still use items, you can still do a lot of stuff with 0 spell slots. You won't feel as powerful, but you could do stuff. With 0 HP, you ain't doing nothing.